Welcome back to the Upper Tier Podcast, the football podcast we bring you each and every week on YouTube. Head over there, smash that subscribe and bell notification button. Audio versions show are available through Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Music. And if you'd like to contact the show, you'll get us on Gmail, the Upper Tier Podcast. You'll get us on Twitter at _upper_tier. And you'll also find us on Facebook and Instagram, the Upper Tier. And we're having a lot of fun these days out on TikTok as well, the Upper Tier Podcast. Joining me tonight for an AFCON preview, Darren, how are we?
Good evening, brother Niall. How are we tonight?
We are good, my man. We are good. This was a suggestion from yourself, because I noticed that a lot of football channels and podcasts out there don't seem to be putting a lot of coverage into the AFCON, but we had spoke about it a few weeks ago. We know some of the quality of the players that are heading away. We did have a look at it in terms of the impact it would have on the Premier League through the month of January, which was quite startling when we went through with the players that were involved in going away. So where do we begin? I mean, do you want me to run down through the groups?
Yeah, just like, I mean, for me, this is an absolute festival of football, really, really is. I think the good thing about something like the AFCON is they hold a slightly bigger group stage, which means there's a lot of the smaller nations get a turn on the big stage, which is nice, And they've got 6 groups of 4, and it's your top 2 from each group, and then it's your 4 best runners up make it to the round of 16. So you do end up with some smaller teams along with the bigger kind of nations, you know what I mean? And it's good because there is a smattering of talent all over the continent of Africa, you know what I mean? It's not just the strongholds of like Nigeria and the Ivory Coast and Senegal. We see today like Burkina Faso played, Bertrand Traore, who plays for Aston Villa, plays there. Cameroon obviously played today, Ethiopia, like it was, and the Cape Verde Islands. That game is just finished actually. So yeah, it's great to see it underway. Like this is their Euros basically, This is their Euros, and it should be given the respect it deserves, really, shouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing I like about it as well, one thing I've mentioned as well, is that I think this emerging continent that's producing some fabulous footballers is really beginning to take its seat at FIFA and stuff like that,
Slanch
it as always. But what I really like about it as well, apart from the football as well, is it gives you kind of an insight into the culture of the different countries. And it's such a colourful tournament and stuff like that. And of course, we see it as well, even when we go to the World Cup and you see the African teams that have made it to the World Cup. The fans are so colourful. It's a festival. It's a carnival. It's, it's that ultimate month away or 2 weeks away or however long they last and stuff like that. And I really like that whole aspect of it as well.
And the other thing,
not only that, the one thing I looked as well is a lot of these countries that are competing in it, a lot of them are war-torn countries. They've had rebellions and coups and all that kind of stuff. But yet, football being football, what it is, rises above that and brings people together in that moment of sport. And I really love that about it as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point, I have to say. It's great to see some of those countries that have been torn apart through war and stuff like that, and political, political factions and stuff like that. It's great to see them get their seat at the table, and to be honest with you, like this is a really tough competition to win, Niall. I watched the first couple of games today. Obviously, the pitches aren't great. The pitches really, really aren't great, which makes the standard of football a little more difficult. And you're playing in horrific heat. Now, absolutely horrific heat. I mean, a lot of these lads would be used to this kind of heat, but you're 20 minutes into the Burkina Faso Cameroon game, and it looks like the lads have just gotten out of the shower. The jerseys are absolutely stuck to them. And it's so competitive. The work rate is phenomenal, even in that heat. Anything that it lacks in, quality, it makes up for in heart, determination. And, those guys are really going out there and representing their countries, which is, it's what we want to see from international football, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think when they get to the stage, anyone I think who reaches a semi-final or a final in this, they've really put in a month of a shift of work, really. Both in terms of, they get virtually no time at all to acclimatise. I mean, they're literally getting off a plane, couple of training sessions, and bang, they're straight into the first round of group games. And especially in the current environment as well, where we know that the variant is rife and stuff like that and all, and it's really difficult. But yeah, they're pushing on, just like the Premier League and anywhere else is pushing on, trying to provide us with football and keep us entertained. So hats off to them in the fact that it's going ahead. But I'd say it's very difficult for guys the likes of Mo Salah or any of those guys in the Premier League who basically live in the UK to climatize back into that to kind of play. But then I suppose it's no different if you had European teams heading over to play World Cups in Mexico or wherever it is, or South America.
And you know what? It might be a really nice return for them, to head back to the continent and stuff like that, and reacclimatize and maybe get back in touch with their roots and stuff like that, and ground themselves a little bit, because we know about the Premier League and the way these guys are treated. They're pampered kids almost, I wouldn't imagine there's as much of that in the international stage over here. And I think, there's a lot more where you're carrying your own bags and you're doing this and and this can help guys. It really can.
Yeah, it puts a bit of grounding in it, doesn't it?
It does. And it puts a lot of perspective into it as well, that the way they're treated there, and they're in such a privileged position in the Premier League and stuff like that,
Yeah. Also, one thing we've often spoken about is the fact that there isn't an awful lot of pride on the international scene in terms of putting on that jersey and that badge on you and stuff like that. But I think with this guys, when these guys go back, I mean, when you think of the likes of Mo Salah and Sadio Mane and some of the Riyad Mahrez, these big players, they go back there, they really care about their country and stuff like that. And it's even shown through in the charity work and everything that they do. So yeah, absolutely fantastic tournament. And I'm really, really, even though I'm a Liverpool fan, I'm really, really happy that it's going ahead. And and it's well deserved, But let's get into the groups and have a look at the groups. As you said earlier, Cameroon and Burkina Faso, Cape Verde and Ethiopia kicked off the tournament today with the first two matches. So that was Group A. Group B is Senegal, Zimbabwe, Guinea and Malawi. Group C is Morocco, Ghana, Gabon and Comoros. I hope I'm pronouncing these right. So if we've any African fans or any African viewers, if we're not pronouncing it right, let us know in the comments. Egypt, Group D, Egypt, Nigeria, Sudan and Guinea-Bissau. Group E is Algeria, Ivory Coast, Sierra Leone, Equatorial Guinea. And Group F is Tunisia, Mali, Gambia, and Mauritania. I think I got that right, that last one, Mauritania. So they're the kind of groups. I mean, obviously for us as Premier League fans and stuff like that, I mean, the obvious ones stick out to us, the Senegals and the Egypts and Algeria and those type of ones and all. But, thoughts on it in terms of players and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, and that's something I mentioned to you. Like, it's almost like every team has at least one kind of a standout player that you could go, oh wow, I didn't know he was playing. You know what I mean? And it could be a little bit of there's Burkina Faso earlier, like the boy Bertrand Traore. He's obviously at Aston Villa now, but he was at Lyon. He's a serious footballer, this kid. He would be the kind of talisman for Burkina Faso. Got the assist earlier on for the goal. And they took the lead against Cameroon, but unfortunately gave away the penalty for the equaliser as well. It was 1-1, and then there was another penalty given away. And that game finished 2-1 to Cameroon. Vincent Aboubakar of Al Nassr, who he spent 6 years at Porto. We've seen him in the Champions League, good footballer, strong. Andre Onana was back for the Cameroon, obviously after his exploits at Ajax. He'd been on a doping ban for the last couple of months, and then there was quite a few big players as we go through the rounds. You've got your Manes and your Salahs, you've got your Partey's, you've got your Riyad Mahrez, you don't have your Hakim Ziyech. He's actually been left out of the Morocco squad. He's had a little fallout with the coach there, and they haven't brought him, which for Chelsea that's a nice little win. That's a nice little win for Chelsea. He got on the score sheet yesterday, obviously, so that's a big win for them. When they're missing quite a few players, Mendy as well. Mendy's away with Senegal, and there's a lot of kind of up and coming footballers, a lot of younger guys, that are gonna use this stage to further their careers, I'd imagine. If everybody if we get through these group stages unscathed with COVID, you know, you could be looking at some of these lads maybe getting a move in January off the back of their performances in these group games. Yeah. You know, Spurs have a guy there, Pape Sarr. They signed him in the summer from Metz, paid big money for him, and he's been loaned back there for now. But I mean, he's a tricky sort of a winger, and Spurs have paid a lot of money for him. Yeah. There's who else? We've got the boy, obviously Thomas Partey at Arsenal. You've got the Karl Toto Akambe at Cameroon. Another lad being looked at by United, Amadou Hadara. He plays for Mali. Obviously, like there's just quality everywhere you look, you know.
And then we've hardly even mentioned Salah, Mane, Keita,
you know,
Aubameyang.
You know,
we haven't touched on any of them even.
Absolutely. Yet, you know? So I mean, there's a plethora of talent there, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. And it is really a shop window for some of these guys as well, isn't it? Maybe some of these guys that are applying their trade in France or in some of the lower leagues might shine in this and become a star, and an agent might say to them and go, you know, something, fancy him or something like that, you know.
100%.
They could get that huge move that they've dreamed of, you know.
And I mean, like if you're playing at one of the kind of second tier sides in France, or if you're playing in Belgium, or if you're playing in Holland or somewhere like that, this is a massive shop window for you, where, you know, those 3 group games, 3 big performances, all of a sudden it sparks a little bit of interest, and then maybe you make the next step. Maybe you get to Ligue 1, maybe you get to the Premier League, maybe you get to the Championship, and you can build from there, you know. And like, I mean, even if we talk about, you know, there's a couple of players not there, obviously Hakim Ziyech we spoke about, but our boy's big favourite of ours, Emmanuel Dennis. He wasn't released by Watford because they said the call up for the international duty came too late. It was after the date where they had to be notified of it, and they didn't release him. Now he missed yesterday's game. I believe he's carrying a knock, but has this upset the apple cart a little bit with not being allowed to go off for his country?
It could do, especially when you see those other top players in the league heading off to represent their country, as we talk about this festival of colourful culture of football, you know, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, a guy like Dennis as well, I mean, Watford are having their problems like a lot of teams. So maybe he could shine in this tournament, and maybe come summer, someone might want the boy, you know.
Well, I mean, he's shone in the Premier League so far, hasn't he?
Absolutely.
Let's be honest. Yeah. He's definitely one of the standout additions to the league this year. He's a first timer in the Premier League, and he hasn't looked out of place at all.
No.
You know, I think they've spoken about his attitude previously. He had a bit of trouble at Bruges, which is he came from Bruges to Watford, and they spoke about he had a couple of disciplinary issues and attitude issues and stuff like that. But I mean, so far at Watford, he's just been unbelievable for them. He really, really has. And the only reason they're going to be in with any chance of staying in this league is because of him. You know, really, really is. And I'm sure he's waiting to get his boy Ismail Assar back as well. Senegal called him up, and Watford said, listen, he's injured. And Senegal says, well, we want to see him anyway. So I believe he's gone, and he's going to be assessed by the Senegalese doctors. Yeah. I don't know whether they think he might be able to play a part later on in the competition. I think he's probably going to be ruled out for the group games. But you never know. You have to wait and see.
It's an interesting idea, wasn't it? Maybe they should have left him with Watford for those 1 or 2 weeks or whatever it is for the group stages, and then brought him over, because maybe his recovery here might have been maybe of a higher standard or something like that, or a quicker recovery. Possibly.
I think obviously when the issue arose with Emmanuel Dennis, then the eye was on Watford, and maybe Senegal thought, you know what, maybe these guys aren't being completely straight with us here. And this is one of our big players, like, you know, Ismail Assar. He's been talked about, you know, making moves to the likes of Liverpool and Man United in recent seasons. He's a young player, good finisher, creates, he's quick, you know. He's a good footballer, the kid. So I'm sure that's somebody that Senegal would have wanted. Yeah.
Plus, it's their equivalent of us losing Mane and Salah.
Absolutely.
No, that's the level.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it is 100%.
Absolutely. I had a quick look at the betting as well, because I know we we like our show Beat the Bookie, of course.
Do we dabble?
I don't know whether we're going to dabble or not, but we'll have a look anyway, and we'll see. We might put together maybe a couple of charity bets or something as the tournament goes along. But there's not a huge amount of value out there, because it looks like our friends over on Paddy Power, your friends, they've done their homework on this tournament, because you look at the first two games, Cameroon 1-2 and Cape Verde 17-20. So they were two kind of hot favourites. So they got it right, even though I know Cameroon had to come from behind. But they obviously know their stuff. It was an interesting one because Burkina Faso are 11-2. But then you look at the outrights. If you look at the outrights, favourites Senegal are favourites at 7-2, 9-2 Algeria, 6-1 Egypt, which I thought was a decent price now, 6-1 for Egypt, because
it's great value, isn't it?
Yeah, and then 7-1 for the Ivory Coast. But I would imagine the winner, pending on how it all pans out, is going to come from those four. I would imagine.
You'd have to think so. You know, four of the powerhouses of African football. You know, Senegal and the Ivory Coast, and then Algeria and Egypt. You know, I suppose, like, could you put Nigeria up there? Like, it's hard to say at the minute, because I think they've been going through the mire a little bit, Nigeria, haven't they? The results haven't been great. I think we're used to seeing, really, really good Nigerian teams over the last number of years.
Yeah.
But I think, and I don't know whether this is going to cause a little bit of a ruckus, but I think one of the issues now is that if maybe I'm a Nigerian player, but I become eligible maybe for another country through citizenship or things like that. Maybe I've been in another country for a certain amount of time, or I marry somebody from a certain country, or, things like that. I can qualify and play for a different country, So I think there's quite a few Nigerian lads playing elsewhere in international football.
I think with Nigeria, what happened there, and correct me if I'm wrong, the last time we seen them play in a World Cup finals or whatever it was, they had quite an aged side. So they hadn't been blooding the youth and bringing the youth through. And I think what happened was they basically had to recycle again and restart again, basically. So I think that's more the issue with Nigeria, if I remember right.
But also, I think because they weren't blooding the youth, and because there was guys that were on the periphery that probably should have gotten a chance, and they didn't, they went, other doors are open here?
Maybe, yeah.
What other doors are open here? And not just Nigeria, by the way. I think this has happened, across the continent of Africa. I think this has happened quite a bit, where let's look at Patrick Vieira.
Cameroon would be the same, wouldn't they? Because Cameroon have had, they used to be, quite competitive, and they would make finals and stuff like that. And they had a massive drop off as well. I mean, we remember the great days of Roger Milla, and he's scoring.
Roger Milla, that's right. Yeah.
With the flag and all that. Absolutely fantastic, So yeah.
Yeah. So that's sad in a sense, that's happening. But as well, listen, it just goes to show how multicultural this has become, and I know we've certainly benefited from it in the Irish setup. Yeah. We've a couple of lads at the minute, with African parents. I know a lot of the lads themselves are born in Ireland, and they've come into our team, and they've just been amazing. They really have.
Yeah.
Chidozie Ogbene, the Obama Diele, like the lads have been super. The goalkeeper, Gavin Bazunu, what a goalkeeper. He's been he's been absolutely our best player.
Amazing.
By a country mile. And we've benefited from the likes of things like that, from the influence of African football in our nation. And I think a lot of nations around Europe have benefited from that as well. But that's detracted from African football in a sense. You know what I mean? And because if those lads are playing for Ireland, as Bazunu is, he's not playing for another nation in Africa. And that's, that's obviously where things have dropped off a little bit there, but it's there's still the talent on show it's phenomenal.
And the thing about it is, those players that you've mentioned there would not look out of place at the AFCON at the moment. They're the likes of Gavin would be absolutely in there, no problem at all.
Absolutely,
outstanding.
Yeah, really
players.
Would.
So we won't crib too much about that being Ireland. I mean, we're very multicultural here now, and we're quite happy to take these guys on. Looking at what's come in so far, the work rate is absolutely exceptional. And these guys, the work rate, the attitude, the application, they hit the ground running. Brilliant brilliant guys, brilliant players.
I don't know whether you saw the post on social media over Christmas, and it was a father, and he had spoke about how at Christmas time usually his son asked for a jersey for Christmas, and he always wanted a name on the back of the jersey, and for the last number of years it was Messi, Ronaldo, Neymar, these kind of guys. And this Christmas the kid asked for an Ogbene jersey, for the Irish jersey, the orange jersey with Ogbene on it, you know, and it was just like he said, such a proud moment, you know, that the lads have come in and done an amazing job and stuff like that. I'm a very proud moment for that father and stuff like that, you know, because I think he might have been of African origin himself, you know.
Okay.
So it was brilliant for him to be able to go, you know, look, this is what we've done.
Yeah.
So it was lovely. Now it was a lovely story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing I've really enjoyed about this week, and you know, doing a bit of investigative work for the show and stuff like that, I didn't realize the AFCON was going so long. I mean, it debuted in 1957.
That's right.
I couldn't believe that, you know, like, you know, we've always followed the African, you know, teams through the World Cup finals and all that kind of stuff, you know. But our interest in the AFCON, in terms of myself, I don't know about you, but it would be relatively new. You know what I mean? Now, I don't mean new as in I haven't followed it, but I mean it would be relatively new that I look at this in the build-up to a World Cup, you know, that kind of way. So, yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. 1957 was the debut. And funny enough, only three teams, the host Sudan, Egypt and Ethiopia, took part in the first tournament in February 1957.
Brilliant.
Interesting, isn't it?
Brilliant.
The way it has evolved.
The way it's evolved. And I mean, you wouldn't think of those as the big powerhouses, you know. Yeah. But obviously with the westernization of certain countries, things have matured that way, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, we can't argue. The lads are just fabulous athletes. They really, really are. You know, they're the engine they have on them, the strength and stuff like that. You know, just like you look at the likes of Thomas Partey and stuff like that, Frank Cassie, you know, another lad we didn't mention earlier, like Frank the Tank, as I like to call him, because he is just a beast in that centre midfield role. A guy I'd love to see. You know how much I want this guy. Yeah. But like these are unbelievably gifted athletes, even without a football at their feet. They're gifted athletes, you know, and it's right that they get the platform to go and entertain people. I don't know whether there's a little, and you know, when we go to World Cups and stuff like that, especially if Ireland aren't at the World Cup, we always tend to pick a country that we want to do well. And I look at the kind of African nations, and the fans are almost Irish like, or the Irish fans are almost African nation like. It's a party. It's a party, and it's color, and it's greens and oranges and reds, and everything is there, and it's you know, they're there for a party, win, lose or draw. They are going to absolutely enjoy themselves, you know. It's brilliant. It really is.
Yeah, it's kind of the only thing it reminds me close to is, you know, when you see the All Blacks doing the haka. It's that kind of thing, and it's just, you see them and the culture comes out, and they're in the stands and the drums and everything is going, and it's real tribal, but it's fantastic to see, like, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And the other fans on the other side of the pitch are all cowering away, going, "Oh my God, what's this?" kind of thing, you know. Yeah. But it's like as if nearly they're going into war, but it's a celebration of it and stuff like that and all, you know. It's absolutely fantastic.
Brilliant.
The other thing that I was really interested in, that the country that's won it the most so far is Egypt. They've won it 7 times. And that was another one that I was kind of surprised by, because when I look back through all those years in the World Cup and stuff like that, I know Egypt at times has been there as well. But I always think of like Nigeria and Cameroon and teams like that and stuff, you know. So I was a little bit shocked that Egypt were the front runners with 7.
There's a strange sort of a fad in African football, and it's happened quite a few times. And African football doesn't necessarily produce its best on its own stage. You know, like there's been a lot of big favourites, Nigeria, Ivory Coast, Senegal, who've gone into tournaments, heavy favourites, and haven't managed to get over the line. You know, But there's been a couple of like gold medal winning African teams at the Olympics.
Yeah,
that's a huge one for them. That's where they put their under 23s out and stuff like that, and they have that kind of blend of their few overage players with their under 23s, and they've really, really done well in the Olympics and stuff like that. But I mean, some big favourites have been beaten in this. You know, I remember a couple of years ago when I think it was the Ivory Coast, and they were nailed on to win it. You know, they were absolutely nailed on to win it. And I think it was a quarter or a semi, and they were just beaten 1-0. And then all of a sudden, boom, you know, and they kind of went out a little bit toothless and stuff like that. But it's, as I said earlier, the combination of the heat and these pitches, the pitches can be very, very poor at times. I would myself personally love to see a lot of these games played on English style pitches, because I think the quality would go way up. You know, because I think through the middle of the pitch, where it gets a lot of activity and stuff like that, the ball can just get stuck and it's bobbly and it's, you know. But I suppose we wouldn't have those amazing fans that were rejoicing about as well if we were playing them.
The culture, you know, and the vibrancy of the party would be watered down and replaced by the pitch.
Yeah.
And I think any of the players playing there would probably tell you, you know something, we'll put up with the pitch for the party that's involved.
Absolutely, yeah, you're dead right. 100%.
One of the things I wanted to look at, I mean, leading scorer.
Leading scorer. Well, I suppose
young Vincent.
Who's the leading scorer in African Nations football?
Yeah.
Excuse me, in African Nations football, leading scorer. I know him well. But I know him well.
Right there, he's right there.
You know.
If I said to you, and I think I'm right, if I said to you Barcelona,
Samuel Eto'o.
There you go. Boom.
Yeah, Samuel Eto'o.
Yeah.
He was actually there was quite a few names floating around in the vicinity there, and he was up there. But listen, Samuel Eto'o, what a footballer! Yeah. You know, what a footballer.
18 goals over a decade of competing in
18 goals. Wow.
18 goals. Serious.
And I remember him actually scoring a goal in that famous Cameroon kit. You remember the famous Cameroon kit?
Yeah.
Do you? What was different about the famous Cameroon kit? You don't have this one, Niall, do you?
No, go on.
Cameroon played in an AFCON with no sleeves on their jerseys.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's
right.
Yeah, it looked like an Aussie Rills jersey. Remember the Aussie Rills? It
was a really tight fitting vest jersey. No, very, very tight fitting.
Yeah.
And he put a couple in when he was wearing that now.
Awesome. Yeah.
And the jerseys are just amazing.
One thing that you'll really like, and you touched on it there when we were talking about the age of players and guys maybe not getting their chance. The oldest player to play in it was one that's close to our hearts. He's a goalkeeper for Egypt, Hassan El Hadri. And what age was he when he played in it?
I think he's about 42, was he?
44 in 2017.
Yeah, I actually remember him playing. Yeah, that's right. They might have won it that year, Egypt.
I think they did, yeah.
I think they might have won it that year, yeah. 44. Wow, that's phenomenal, isn't it?
Absolutely. And the youngest player to feature and score was a Gabon player. Shiva Nzigo, I think is how you pronounce it. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, folks. I'm doing my best here.
How old were we?
He was 16 years and 93 days.
Wow. That's phenomenal, isn't it?
So there's one end of the spectrum to the other end of the spectrum.
That goalkeeper could have legitimately been his father.
That goalkeeper could nearly legitimately be his grandfather. He's nearly 3 times his age.
Wow.
So there you go. And the only other interesting AFCON fact that I came across was the fact that there's been 3 different trophies.
Okay.
3 different trophies since the tournament started. So there you go. I know we've had it's 2 in the World Cup, isn't it? We've had 2 different ones. We had the original kind of smaller one, and then we have the gold one that we know.
The Jules Rimet.
That's it.
Who are we gonna pit our master, Niall? Are we gonna call out a couple of finalists?
I don't know, depending on what way the draw and all pulls out. I mean, obviously you're looking at Senegal and Egypt, aren't you? Really, they're the two, and maybe Algeria. That's
Senegal and Egypt, and that's Mane and Salah's teams, isn't it?
And then Algeria with Riyad Mahrez, isn't it? Algeria.
Yeah, Algeria have been solid in it for a few years now.
Yeah.
They're really solid.
Always there or thereabouts.
Yeah, very good going. Very good defensively, Algeria. Very good, solid and stuff like that. They used to have the lad that played for Rangers, the centre back, used to play a lot of their games in it. He was a little bit of a ball boy at times, that lad. I can't remember his name now. It's evading me, but he was, geez, he seen more red cards than Santa Claus did, you know. And on that,
which is not unusual in this tournament.
It's not unusual in this tournament because, you know, we saw a red today in that Cape Verde game, that Cape Verde Ethiopia game, and in the game before it, Cameroon and Burkina Faso, we saw quite a number of yellows. The one thing I will say about the AFCON, and again, I'll probably leave myself open for a little bit of criticism here. The standard of refereeing is horrific.
Worse than the Premier League.
Worse than the Sunday League. Like, horrific. Oh my God. The Bertrand Traore foul earlier on for the first penalty. The referee had to go. Now, he was no more than 6 steps away from it, and he had to go and view it on the monitor. This is like 112% a penalty all day long. Excuse me. But I do get the vibe.
Well, at least we had a ref who went and looked at a monitor.
He went and looked at the monitor. He came back and he gave the penalty. I think at times that the standard of refereeing can be quite poor. But I don't know whether there's a little bit of trepidation there on the referee's behalf, you know, because obviously those stadiums are full of vibrant supporters, and they're thinking, if things don't go well around here, might I struggle to get out here, you know?
Yeah. This is like a Sunday league for us when the referee doesn't perform. You know what I mean? You know those pitch side parents.
Yeah. This is
Marcus spoke about them a number of times on the episodes.
Absolutely.
Tell us this and educate me. Have they pitch side monitor for a referee, or is it full VAR?
So they have a pitch side monitor for the referee.
Okay.
The referee in the Cameroon game was told to go and look at the monitor.
So there is an element of VAR.
There absolutely is an element of VAR. Absolutely. But the pitch side monitor, the pitch they were on today, the monitor was a little bit away. He had to go over a hoarding to get to it.
Okay.
And then I think even there was like an athletic track around the pitch, and he was heading that direction, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, he wasn't like, you know, really wasn't pitch side, let's say. But he got to the right decision in the end. That's the most important thing.
Awesome.
I mean, it's a penalty all day long. Second one as well. Second one's a mental tackle in the Cameroon game. But you could just see the exuberance in the guy that made it. And the Cameroon lad, the Burkina Faso lad who made the tackle. Like, he was so hell bent on getting that ball. And one of the Cameroon players come down the left-hand side, and his first touch wasn't great. And it pushed the ball a little bit too far ahead of him. And then the centre back that was coming across, and as he was coming in, he just got to the ball first to touch it. And as he touched, the centre half came in and cleaned them out, like kind of being sideswiped in a car. And the referee pointed to the spot fairly quickly for that one, I have to tell you. Thankfully, you know. But just keep a little eye on that. We may see a few questionable decisions over the course of this month of 5 weeks. You know?
For you beat the bookie fans, anyone who's doing bets on numbers of cards or points related to that, or red cards or penalties,
Exactly.
that's where you could potentially make a few bob this month at the AFCON. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's thinking up there. You're absolutely right.
There's a very fine line between competitive nature and naivety, isn't there?
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. And as we said, over exuberance. Guys really looking to do their nation proud, but just being half a second too late, and cleaning somebody's absolute clock.
Is there anything worse being a player than going in for a hard challenge and then feeling foolish after it?
Because this guy really did everything he could.
Yeah.
But again, football now is at the stage where players are so in all leagues in the world, players are so quick. If you're just slightly out, you can look so silly at times.
That's probably another draw for the AFCON as well, though, because we follow the Premier League so much. Lads don't tend to get stuck in, and you've given out about it so many times that you miss that. So we can enjoy it for the next month at the AFCON. Lads just getting absolutely stuck into lads,
Yeah. There's a lot of that, but there's also a lot of the, was he just man down? Was he just shot? In the lead up to the Burkina Faso goal earlier on, Bertrand Traore had a header cleared off the line.
Yeah.
And as the Cameroon player cleared it off the line, he headed it off the line and then dived as if he'd been shot and ended up on the ground. It was pure brilliance. And he was like this. And then the ball came back in, and Andre Onana, the Ajax goalkeeper, who had been out for doping, looked like he'd maybe be dabbled earlier, previous to the game. He came for a cross, and he was this far away from it. And the ball came all the way over his head. He went out with his left hand to get it. He got nowhere near it. And one of the Burkina Faso players was standing behind him and just side-footed into an empty net. You thought, oh, did that really happen there? What happened there? Where's the keeper and all of this? He took off like a jumbo jet going to claim that ball and got nowhere near it.
So we need a trophy for this tournament that's somewhere between the Ballon d'Or and the Oscar and the Golden Globe.
Yeah,
and if we can put those three together, we have a perfect trophy for this tournament. That's it.
Absolutely. And any of our listeners that are watching it, Sky have this for the next couple of weeks, you'll really, really enjoy these games.
Yeah.
The colour, obviously, and the festival, as we've spoken about, and stuff like that. But also during the games, the carry on. Yeah. I can't even put it anywhere.
I can see it in your face here. The enjoyment of it when you haven't got an investment in it. When you're not invested in it, but you can just sit back and enjoy it for what it is. Yeah, absolutely.
Myself and the older lad, we watched the Cameroon game earlier on.
Yeah.
And there was stages in it where we were just in fits laughing.
Yeah.
It was like carry on football.
It's popcorn time, isn't it?
It was like they were at 6s and 7s defending, and the ball was coming in, and guys are like Superman heading the ball out, and then it was just brilliant, but it was so enjoyable.
Mid game, you get centre halves becoming strikers, and there's no formation.
The lack of the lack of formation and tactical nous at times was brilliant, because it just led to that passion and that pride, and lads just going for everything, and you just thought, this is what we like. You couldn't have looked at either of those two games and gone, well, they were boring pieces of shit, because they weren't. And how many times have we looked at international football recently and thought, oh my God, that was dreadful to watch. This is not going to be dreadful. People are going to look at this and they're going to go, wow, that was great to watch.
Very entertaining.
There's serious entertainment value in this, I have to tell you, with a lot of top footballers on display. The goal of I'm gonna tag you up now. The goal of the competition on this will be unbelievable, because you'll see it. You'll see loads of absolute screamers scored on this. Really absolutely. Will.
Looking forward to a whole month of this. It's going to be amazing. We had a look at a couple of players to watch. I mean, obviously you've named a few already, but I picked out a few that aren't necessarily your Mo Salahs and your Sadio Manes and your Keitas and Aubameyangs, the ones that everyone kind of knows, you know, your Riyad Mahrez and all. So the first one that came out was Karl Toko and Cambe.
Yes, plays up front for Lyon in the French First Division. Good footballer, you know, plays Champions League football, scores. He's really active. He took for Lyon. He tends to play down that left hand side or up front. So he's a left-sided forward, but he's a very, very good player. He's quick, likes a goal, you know, really, really good. There's me phone down the kamikaze dive again. There we go. And we're back. Just really, really good footballer. Karl Toto Cambe, I have to say.
Next one I have in was Mohammed Bale. Plays for Guinea, but has scored 9 of their 20 league goals for Clermont Foot.
That's France. Right, in the French First Division. That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they just come up. His strike rate actually in Ligue 1 is phenomenal. His shots, his goals per shot ratio is like way up there in the top 5 in the league. And again, and he's young. You know, he's hungry. He's got pace. Lots of good stuff going on there. Yeah, absolutely. Bale, that's great.
This potential shop window for this guy?
100%. This guy has already put himself in the shop window, what he's done with Clermont Foot this season. So now this will be the flashing lights on top of the shop window.
One you mentioned earlier, Papa Sarr.
Yes, but he's a Spurs player. Spurs fans won't know a whole lot about him because he hasn't played for Spurs yet. They signed him from Metz and they loaned him straight back to Metz. He hasn't lit it up in France this season, but this kid's very, very good. He's really, really exciting. Plays down that right-hand side. He's an attacking winger. He's got it all.
Absolutely. Speaking of attacking wingers, Kamaldeen Sulemana,
the boy from Ghana.
Yeah, and he plays for Rennes.
That's right. Again, so as we spoke about it earlier, French football, you know, it's full of African players. Really, really good. And this is what we spoke about previously about how France, for me, the tempo in France is much closer to the Premier League than the likes of Spain or Italy is. The tempo in Spain and Italy is a lot slower. The tempo in France is much, much quicker. And I think that's why a lot of English teams will look to French teams when they're trying to sign players, but also why a lot of the players seem to work better. You know, you might take the best player out of Ajax, Donny van de Beek, comes to the Premier League, can't cut it. You might take, you know, a squad player from Rennes, and he can be a really, really good player because the standard in that league is so much better, you know? And the tempo is so much quicker.
Yeah, the other guy I picked out was Sofiane Boufal, another player that you're aware of. Yeah,
I mean, Boufal was at Southampton and really, really flattered to deceive there, you know? He's a good footballer. Southampton fans didn't see the best of this kid at all, you know. He's gone off.
The governor would love to have him right now, wouldn't
he? You see, I don't know because he was there at Southampton and he didn't seem to light it up at all. You know, he really, really didn't. But he's a super footballer, Sofiane Boufal. He really is. He's a huge name in African football. You know, if you mention Sofiane Boufal to an African, they'll go, "Oh wow, super." Whereas we had him in the Premier League, and because he didn't light it up, he kind of went unknown, which is a shame as well. You know.
Yeah, he's been involved. I looked today, 8 of their 26 goals, and he's netted 5 himself.
Yeah, knows where a goal is. Very, very creative. He's not necessarily, you know, he doesn't get lots of width, but he's very, very clever. He's a little bit of a midfield schemer, like a number 10. He plays like little balls in behind defenders. Really clever little footballer like that. Tactical, very, very good. Tactically, very, very good, you know.
Yeah, next guy I picked out was Joe Arrebo. Plays for Glasgow Rangers.
Any Aston Villa fans, have a look at this kid. He could absolutely end up at Aston Villa. Stevie G, massive fan of Joe Arrebo, has lit up the Scottish Premier League, Joe Arrebo, not just with his goals, but also with his work rate. This kid's work rate is phenomenal, really, really is. Very distinctive kind of a hairstyle Joe Arrebo has, but a really good footballer. And I would say maybe the next 18 months, we'll see him in the Premier League. I'd be shocked if we don't.
Another one that our French league fans would be aware of, Yusuf Atal, who plays for, Algeria. And he's ranked amongst the top 10 defenders in League One.
Yeah, very, very solid Atal, you know, and he's big and he's strong and stuff like that. He's one of the lesser known names in the Algerian squad, but that doesn't mean necessarily he's not one of the bigger players for this occasion, because, you know, if he shows up and this competition goes very, very well for him and for Algeria, again, this is shop window time.
And at a time as well where a lot of clubs are looking for good defenders.
100%.
A man we don't have to mention too much, who I think is definitely going to use this as a shop window, Frank Cassie.
My boy, Frank the Tank.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't know. I can't say any more about Frank. I just think he's phenomenal. I really do. He's an engine in that midfield, you know, so strong, can create, can defend, he's comfortable with the ball at his feet. He does it all for me, you know. No explanations there. Just a top footballer.
I mentioned him a lot today in our Liverpool match reaction. I think he'd be a great footballer for Liverpool as well. I think our midfield has become a little bit stale and a little bit stagnant, and I think it needs a bit of energy put in there, and might be something to consider in January. So there you go. And we'll finish out with Tunisia. How do I do this now?
Ilyas
Sakiri, is it?
Yeah. That's how I stumbled through it myself.
Yeah, scored 3 goals for Cologne.
Yeah, that's right. Hasn't maybe shone on the international stage just yet. But he's one of those players that this for him will be his first taste of real tournament football. And again, you know, we've mentioned it number of times throughout the show. This is the shop window for a kid like this, you know. He's obviously at with Cologne and obviously, you know, we in England certainly we look at Germany and we make an awful lot of decisions based on how things go for players in Germany, and this kid could be another one down the conveyor belt.
Yeah, I think his ball winning stats when I looked at him today are outstanding. He's a serious ball winner in midfield. So good from that point of view. They're the players I looked at. Yeah,
some phenomenal talent, and again, a lot of those aren't the bigger names. You know, you'd maybe argue Frank Cassie, but I mean, other than that, like, you know, we haven't mentioned the Manes, the Salahs, the Edward Mendy's, the Aubameyangs, the Thomas Partey's. You know, there's so many. You'll be surprised when you look at these games, and when you look at the teams, you'll go, oh yeah, know him. Oh yeah, know him. I know. And all of a sudden you go, geez, there's 5 or 6 of these lads I know from European football, from big leagues in European football, and any of the ones you don't know, keep your eye on them, because you'll know them by the end of the tournament. Yeah,
or you might certainly know them. They might be on the back of your jersey by the end of the season.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, listen, pleasure having you on to preview the AFCON. I know it's kicked off with 2 games today. But yeah, an absolute pleasure. And listen, we're going to do a show once a week on this. We're going to update people and see pick out our players, pick out our picks, maybe do a couple of charity bets on the way and stuff like that, and have a bit of fun with this tournament. Sometimes there's just not enough fun in football, and we want to have a little bit of fun this month in football, especially with everything that's going on. So as always, drop into the comments. If I didn't pronounce something properly or I got something wrong, let me know and I'll correct it on the next show. If you want to contact us, Gmail, the Upper Tier Podcast. You'll get us on Twitter at the _upper_tier. You'll also get us on Facebook and Instagram, the Upper Tier. And you'll get us definitely on TikTok throughout the AFCON without a shadow of a doubt. We will be dropping clips on TikTok, no doubt. Darren's in shock at some of this stuff that might go on in this tournament, and he will be letting us know, and we will be clipping that for TikTok. Pleasure as always, my friend.
Thanks, brother.